Hey guys, welcome to this episode of FlickFans. Today we're going to be talking about the movie Wet Hot American Summer and a little bit about the TV shows. I'm Eric.
I'm James.
Hell yeah, man. And let's get right into it. I love this movie.
Me too, man. So, what kind of, bring me back a little bit. What made this movie prevalent in your life?
You know, I gotta say, I think it was the time that I saw it. Same with a couple other movies, like the Kevin Smith movies, just that era on Netflix. I mean, those movies are still on there, of course, but seeing it for the first time in, I want to say, probably sophomore year, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe junior at the latest, was when I discovered a lot of these movies that I've really enjoyed and continuously rewatched throughout the couple of years. I don't know how I found out about it though, other than seeing it on Netflix, and I liked the title. I guess I was probably kind of feeling a little randy, and I was like, "Ooh, Wet Hot America. Ooh, what's this?" It was Netflix 30. I find out. I know now. I think Elizabeth Banks is on the cover of it. I don't know if she was at the time, but I'm sure it was just a combination of the picture and the title, and I'm like, what is this about? And then when I read the little synopsis of it, I was like, all right, let's check it out.
Hmm.
So I think that was, just kind of found it. Maybe it was a recommended movie or something like that.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, you actually showed me that movie. It was when, we were hanging out at your old house back when we lived in the same town and everything. And we were just kind of looking for something. You're like, "Oh man, you have to watch this. It's like all these old, this old movie from, when these really famous actors were young and like didn't really have a pronounced career yet."
Yeah, it
Like
was
stuff
Bradley
like that.
Cooper's first movie. He
That,
graduated.
yeah, Bradley Cooper, Paul Rudd, Amy Poehler. There's more
Yeah,
that I can't think of right now. But
and
the guy from Bob's Burgers is the soup can in that one. Even
yeah,
he has like a small part. Um, and just, it's just crazy because like, and it was one of those movies too where you watch it, you can watch it multiple times, not just because it's a good movie, but because it unpacks so much more every time you watch it.
yeah,
Like it was kind of funny to me, like going into it not really expecting anything other than, because all you had said to me was, "Oh, this movie's funny and it shows, these actors in it." That's all I had, going into it.
hmm
So like the randomness, I feel like some of it definitely missed out on the first time watching around, because I remember seeing it a second time and being like, "Oh yeah, this movie's not just like silly and kind of random. It's like some of it's straight up fucked up." Like, you know, and just
yeah,
all of that. And it's like I see a new thing every time I watch it, and it obviously could just be like, "Oh, I don't necessarily remember that because I don't watch it, day to day. I'll watch it every once in a long while, so it's like maybe it's parts I'm just forgetting." But stuff will seem, completely new to me. It won't just be like, "Oh my god, yeah, I remember that part and I forgot about it." It's literally just like it's a whole new thing in the movie for me.
yeah. A
Like,
good example.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, you're
A
good.
good example of that for me this time around when we rewatched it, not together, but when I rewatched it for this was when Beth talks to the scientist whose name I can't remember right now. You have
I
the
want to say
flower
Jim.
pot. What?
I want to say Jim was his
Uh,
first name.
Maybe. But you have that flower pot breaking gag, and then
Yeah.
it to the cafeteria when the guy, I think he like throws his fork, and that sound effect comes in
Yeah,
again.
just random stuff.
I forgot that it comes in after that scene. So the fact that they have it a third time in a totally separate scene, I forgot all about, and I loved it.
It's yeah. it's really little just stupid stuff like that that always just gets me going in life. It just when I hear just random off the cuff just absolutely dumb jokes that just catch me off guard, I will laugh about them for hours just cuz like I didn't expect it and I just like loved it. And a lot of times it's from people I don't expect that kind of joke to come from and
Yeah.
everything like that. So this movie does a lot of that. The one example for me where it was a completely new thing that I totally forgot was when I don't think it was Usain Bolt, but it was another like Olympic African runner. And they're
Uh-huh.
playing flag football in just some random summer camp in Maine. And it's like a whole serious like slow-mo event, and then at the end of it just like I don't want to say like taking shots at, the movie, the dynamics of like how most movies are and everything like that, but it was almost kind of like they were poking fun or like kind of being like, "Hey, yeah, like don't you notice this?" When, they make their side characters not necessarily the stars, but the kind of like emphasis characters, you know what I mean? Like where it's like the like JJ or whatever, the dude with the long hair. It's like he's important to the movie, but he's not necessarily like the main character or like what it's about and everything.
Yeah, for sure.
And when they tell him to walk off, like he does stuff where he walks like straight into the lake.
No, yeah, he doesn't even like go like this. He just goes like whoop.
He literally just, yeah, no, it's like a straight up just walk off, and then the he just doesn't have ground underneath him
Yeah,
anymore, and he's just still going. And
yeah,
it's so funny because to me that was kind of like they put that stuff in there. I mean, obviously for comedic effect, but it also seems like they're like, it's where do these characters go? Where do these types of characters go in the movies when they're told to like buzz off or anything? Because the way they display them in the movies is that their lives revolve around the more important, more prominent characters in the movie.
yeah.
Y-
It kind of
That
gives
was
me.
my interpretation of it, you know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, it gives me a feeling now that you said that where uh all of these characters like they only live in whatever scene that they're in. And I think that might explain why, they shoot up heroin and rob someone, then they're back at camp. Everything's fine. So it's like they just exist within these moments and then they just kind of are whatever they have to be for this next one. Um the it's a great ensemble cast even though they don't all interact with each other. Um they do a good amount of crossing over, and I think the supporting characters definitely keep the theme and the tones going, or tone more so. Um, where we mentioned him just walking off, and it's like really really funny. But it'd
Mm,
be kind of weird if there was one character that wasn't really in on it in a sense,
yeah.
or I guess. I guess Coop is really like the straight man if there was one in this kind of thing. But
Mhm.
even he, has his crazy moments.
like even the intro, it's just kind of like for someone going in completely blind, it kind of just makes you think like, oh, this is gonna be a movie about kids at summer camp or whatever.
Yeah,
And then it gets into just like there's a couple random things here like, huh, that was weird. And then as the movie goes on, it's just weirder and weirder shit till it adds up to just being like, oh, the end of the world is coming, and like these random camp counselors are figuring it out.
yeah, I think it's really funny and it's really effective, particularly with this style where the the term I think is like window into the world or the anchor or something like that, where they don't really have that, but they just have the progression that just instead of pointing it out, where it's like, oh, isn't that weird? They just keep running with it, and you as the audience, you're just supposed to accept it and
It's
keep
like,
going with
okay, this is what the movie is, I guess.
yeah. Guys, this is the Paul Rudd Appreciation Hour, where we
I
talk
want
Paul Rudd for an hour.
I want you to start this off so
Okay.
that I don't, plow over you.
Will do, man. Like I said though, they establish the relationships and the dynamics and the characters really, really well early on.
Yep.
And I would say, no exception with Mr. Rudd, um, where, you see him making out with Katie, and he his funny faces, dude. Oh my god! But just right away, where he is immediately like just so disinterested in her, and in a normal comedy, I think there would be more acknowledgement of like, hey, you're being an asshole to me, and he's like, whatever. But she doesn't even say that, right? She's like, it's like, oh, maybe we should go for a walk later. Ah, god damn it, you're smothering me. And she's
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, I just want to hang out with you. He's like, my butt itches, and he's just like totally does not give a shit about her, and it's established so well and so easy, like so quickly. Um, his faces throughout the movie are priceless gems, honestly.
Mm. I
Um,
loved the whole literally like minute or two long scene of him being told to pick up the tray that he just deliberately like he just like takes the but he for some reason he's still there like alone after everyone left, and then like the head counselor comes over, and right as that happens takes a bite, chugs his juice, throws it on the floor, like flips the tray over, and then like slides out and just I noticed this doesn't push the chair in. And that's like a big, because it's like that's like a douchebag move to just like push the chair so far out and everything like that, because it's just like an established polite thing. You push the chair in after you get up or whatever. But he pushes it like really far out because he's just like, they want you to know, like, this guy is a douchebag. I think they do that. I mean, not only just Paul Rudd, but like with all of them, I think they really exaggerate the character like on purpose. They do it just right away. They want you to know who's who and everything like that. They want you to be like, this is what like our goofy random take on like, a stereotypical summer camp group of people.
yeah. And
And
you said before that you were saying, oh, not that they're taking jabs, but I definitely think it's a parody of
oh, it's so a parody. Yeah.
summer movies, teen coming of age movies, movies in general. 'Cause yeah, at the end of the movie, almost out of nowhere, they set it up a little bit, but then a big chunk goes by, and then he's like, a satellite's about to, fall onto the camp and kill us all. And I feel like that's a very 80s, 90s thing where, there's like kind of the end of, or a big disaster is about to happen. So I
Yeah.
think it also works really well where it's like, okay, we're going to do uh, a funny teen summer camp movie, and
Yeah.
then start getting the stereotypes, the archetypes of movies and people, right? It's like, all right, then we'll do a parody of it, and it goes so well because right off the bat, yeah, you do understand that Paul Rudd is the cheesiest, weirdest, kind of lamest bad boy,
Oh yeah.
which is even
He's
funny
wearing
because
jeans, jean jacket, red rag hanging out the back pocket.
uh,
He's got the hair
Uh-huh.
Like, oh,
It's funny to think that Jean Garofalo, who was that actress, she was like the big name at that time.
yeah, I didn't even know that. That's surprising to me because it's like out of all the actors there, like I didn't recognize her, and I didn't recognize Cooper Katie, who are the main two characters.
No,
Don't
I don't think they were big actors at the time.
Oh no, me neither, but I'm saying like I don't even remember them from stuff now.
Oh yeah,
And
and
it's so funny because like especially the way I was introduced to the movie by you was just kind of like, oh, there's all these actors that made it big, which is true, they're in it, but what's the nerd guy in there? That's like the robot guy that does like a
yeah,
weird
he's been in some stuff too.
He's been in Big Bang Theory. He was like a very big character in Big Bang Theory, which was like the highest rated show till last year.
Yeah, the guy Victor's friend is in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I can't remember
Yes.
the character name.
Yes. And Victor was in some stuff. I don't remember exactly what, but I remember seeing him outside of that.
To continue our Paul Rudd talk real
Oh
fast.
yeah, why do we get off that?
Yeah, to go to the show, the first day at camp, where it's really interesting seeing him as way less of the bad boy. I mean, he kind of is, but he definitely
He has more of a character in it.
yeah,
He has more stuff to say. He's like more important in the show than the
yeah, but
movie.
he was also kind of dorkier, where he's trying to win over Katie, and it's funny seeing him in that point to then the end of camp, where he just doesn't give a shit about her. But in the first couple of episodes, he's like really pining after her and trying to impress her with like the push-ups and all this. I mean, yeah, it definitely gives Paul Rudd a bit more to do. And I was watching this episode earlier where he auditions for the play, he gets the role, and they start practicing, and they don't even start. And he's like, I can't do this, and he runs away. And I'll do it for you.
Oh
You
boy.
see him from the back, and he runs like this, and then
Yep.
Taylor goes, Andy, stop, and he's like, like it's just so goofy and exaggerated. He's like,
It's very cartoony, yeah.
which is it's perfect for him in the movie. I mean the show. Um, yeah,
Like him trying to woo her is so funny. He does those push-ups where he has his legs spread,
yeah,
and they're all like watching him with the binoculars. They're like, "How does he stay so perpendicular?" and all this stuff like that. And the one time, the thing that made me laugh so fucking hard because Paul Rudd just in all his movies has a thing where he just does shit with his face. And it's just like he doesn't even have to do well outside of that, but the facial expressions just like sell me. They're like literally that's what make me like yes, exactly. I see those facial expressions. I'm like he is perfect for this role. And it's like maybe he's really not. I just see that and I like it so much that I'm like he can't do anything to mess this up. He can say any sort of thing I don't like. He can be a terrible actor. Like the fact that this was a thing that just happened, like I'm sold. Because he did the whole thing where he's like nudges JJ in the show. He nudges JJ and he's like about to talk to Katie. He's like, "Hey, check this out." And he's like, "Katie." And she's like, "Yeah." And he goes, "What are you doing?" Or what are you doing later? And she's like, "I don't know, nothing." And he's like, "Cool." And she's like, "All right, that was weird." And like goes back to our conversation and then he just goes like I shouldn't even try because like I can't do his facial
yeah,
expressions justice. He's the god. He's the god with that.
yeah,
But
yeah,
he just does that for like a minute straight to JJ, and JJ's just like
yeah.
in the supportive best friend. He's like as he's doing that whole thing, and then he's just like she totally wants me.
Mm-hmm.
What does he do like right after that?
No,
Where
he turns around and like walks into like a corn maze or something. He's like,
that was a different
oh,
scene. Yeah,
okay.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it was a different scene. He like rubs her back or whatever, and then like talks shit about her boyfriend, and
Mhm.
then he's just like, "You'll come around," and then he's just like, "You will," and then it's just like, "Da da 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 da, you will." just keeps going until he's in the cornfield, and then he's like, "You will."
To go back to the movie though, the very subtle, funny lines that really like they shouldn't be funny because it's just a line, but they are. Where he says when Elizabeth Banks goes to him at the lake before the kid's drowning, and she's like, "Oh, what are you writing on?" And he goes, "My journal." And she goes, "Do you mean journal?" And he goes, "Yeah. Guess I'm not all smart like you."
Yeah.
Yeah, especially with like you're saying, just something that's just an exaggeration. They do the exaggerations really well, like when they go into town and they start smoking a cigarette, but then they start drinking beer, then they rob someone, then they do heroin and stuff. A great
And
one,
Amy Poehler's trying to suck the dude's dick because she's
yeah.
like in a fake relationship with Bradley Cooper, who's playing like a closeted homosexual.
Yeah. What I was going to say, James, before you rudely interrupted me, was
Oh,
a good joke like the small exaggerations is the gum thing. Whenever that girl shows up and like, "Do you have gum?" Oh yeah, and then he gives one. He gives one to her, and that happens like twice, and it's just so silly because it's like
it's
this
so
weird.
funny because that actually used to be the thing. Like when you were about to make out with someone.
Feel,
Eric, have you ever been to summer camp?
no, actually,
That is an actual thing.
I
That
bet.
is an actual like formality. There, like when a girl asks you for gum before you reach an age where you can confidently ask like, "Hey, like, is this going somewhere or whatever?" Like before it's actually a conversation thing, you just say shit like that. Or when you're asking her, you go, "You want some gum?"
Sure.
That's what that fucking means.
Oh, I know. I know.
Because everyone wants to be minty fresh.
Hmm.
Every, like everyone wants to do all that shit, and no one can straight up ask something like that.
Yeah, of course.
No one has that kind of balls, and so that was the one thing where I was just kind of like, wow, that fucking brings me back.
I'll say one thing about one thing that I thought was a little strange in the show is that you find out that the girl, I forget
Abby,
her name.
Abby
No,
Bernstein,
okay, yeah, that Victor's trying to have sex with is actually a 13-year-old this whole time.
and she just rapid fire goes through puberty.
Yeah, and it's funny, it's absurd, it's kind of ridiculous. But I remember thinking, like, well, I kind of thought it made more sense if she was their age. I like to talk about the in the show just how actually how really well done McKinley and Bradley Cooper's relationship is starting out. And it's like, yeah, it's an easy one to sort of play for jokes, and they definitely do have some jokes where they're in the zoot suit and they're just like they're almost attached at the hip, and there's like
I
zoot.
didn't get to that part in my rewatch. I'm saying in my rewatch, you literally just reminded me of that. I haven't seen that in years,
Yeah,
and that is so
yeah.
fucking funny.
But there's
Zoot suit, zoot suit.
it's the kind of jokes on, though they're gay, they're doing the musical like a show tune. Fine. That's fine. It was really funny and I thought it was really well done. But there's that scene before when they first meet and he's saying that, McKinley's like, "Oh, I made the costume." And he goes, "Oh wow, like you're so creative. I had no idea." And he goes, "Really?" And he goes, "Oh, I just thought everyone knew I was creative." And it's like instead of saying gay, they're saying creative. I thought that was very, very clever because
Yes.
he goes to Bradley Cooper and he's like, "Oh well, you're creative too." And he goes, "I am." And he goes, "Oh yeah, I just thought you knew." And then he says something. He's like, "Even though you don't think you're creative, I think you're really talented." And
My God.
it's not necessarily subtle, but it was still very clever. I thought. I know we're kind of talking a little bit more about the show, but they kind of go hand in hand, right? But
The same thing.
that scene when Reagan is he's doing like the and just slapping the
Oh
shit.
my God.
I almost fell out of my chair, dude. I was dying
I
at that.
totally had forgotten about that part.
I forgot so much about the TV show. I only saw it once
Like,
when
why is he so abusive? That's just so funny to me.
so he says something about it's like he says handle it, and then he's like, you don't mean like kill the campers, or he goes, I said handle it, smacks him.
Yeah.
again, just starts wailing on him, and he still stands up this whole time, and he's like bleeding. Oh my god, it had me in a very good mood when I was watching that, and I think that's a great takeaway from this movie is that yes, it's very very funny as we're saying, but it has so much rewatchability because you'll pick up on some things, but it's still just enjoyable. It doesn't become a chore where you're like, oh, let me just really study this so I get all the jokes. It's just so much fun to watch. We even had it in Friday Night, that video we made way back, where we try to make a party, but it doesn't work. So we're just eating nachos watching Wet Hot American Summer. Do you remember that?
Oh, I remember the video. I don't remember that we watched that. Because I was thinking of Flapjack, that show.
Oh, okay. No,
We did a video where you watched Flapjack in it.
maybe. I remember for a school project we had chowder in it. But that wasn't like public on YouTube. That was just a separate thing.
Yo, Eric, low-key, dude, if you don't agree with me right now, I'm gonna be really sad.
Okay.
So just tell me you watched Flapjack.
Well, I do watch Flapjack. I don't remember.
Just tell me you did it for the video, though.
James, we put Flapjack in a video. You're right.
Dude, I know. That was like I remember that. No, but no, I do remember that video. That was if you're balling on it's not balling if it's balling on a budget, and I slap you in the grocery store.
Yeah, dude, and I'm on the end of it like a kid, and you're pushing, and I'm on the cart.
I would totally slap my kid in the middle of a grocery store. That's why I don't want to be a dad. I could see him like trying to get me to buy some like stupid ass snack. Yeah, just like some stuff that I know I don't like and that I think is like cringy if you do like, and then I'm just like, no son of mine will like that snack, and then he's like, but I love it, and I'm like, no, I can't think of a specific right now.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned
I
that.
think like Velveeta mac and cheese. That would be one for me.
Oh my! I would disown my kid. He'd be on the street.
My cousins and my aunt disappointed me so hard when I went to visit them. They told me, they go, oh, Auntie Annie's mac and cheese? That stuff's gross. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then they're like, oh, Velveeta, that's so good. I was like, dude, I will literally knock you out in this. It was like a Michigan grocery store. It was a German thing. I don't know what it was called, but it was, dude, I was gonna knock him out in the middle of it.
Grocery tag? So Guten Tag?
It was
That was
it was called Myers, but it was spelled like Migers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but it was pronounced Myers.
That's the weird thing, where it's like, I could care less about my child's sexuality or spirituality.
If you eat fucking Velveeta,
we're Hostess over Drake's, we're gonna have a problem.
Ooh, dude,
goddamn problem.
You're putting some real sauce on them right now. I think that just it almost made me like emotional in a way when I saw the show come out after the movie. Just seeing like the difference in age, and just how these people looked different and everything like that.
Yeah.
Like, and it was just kind of like, because it was an old movie when I first watched it. I don't know when,
like 2002 or something. I think
it was an old movie. Yeah. It is an old movie, and so when you're watching it and stuff, but it just became like so relevant in the now for me when I watched it, because I was showing it to people. It was what we were all talking about, and it also seemed like at the height of us like not too long after us watching it, and like that being our whole like joke base for a little while. Like we'd always reference that at least once a day, something like that. and watch They Came Together and everything.
Oh yeah.
Very, very soon after the show came out. It was like it was on our schedule. That's what I want to say. You
Okay.
know, it was almost like it was on our schedule. It was like, okay, yeah, now this whole group of people is like into the movie. Let's put out a fucking TV show. I
Right.
understand it wasn't that way. I'm not at all trying to say that it was.
Yeah. Look, guys, in closing, if you haven't gotten the memo, you soft, curveless brains over there, we really love this movie.
Hmm.
And highly recommend, if anyone hasn't seen it yet, please watch it. And the shows, if you have the time, they're great comedy. They're great. They're just great stories, really. And yeah, just watch them, please. They're amazing.
It's a fucking great movie. Especially like, I mean, not like if you've ever been to summer camp and want to see like a funny parody on what that was like, because obviously it's not the same experience they had, but they'll see some similarities and be like, "Oh my god," and have like a throwback kind of scenario. And even if not, if you just really want something like you don't even have to pay that much attention to because it's so rewatchable and it's one of those things you can literally just like tune in a little bit and then be like, oh my god, that's fucking funny, and just kind of like go back to whatever.
It's really, I would say, comically dense, if I can coin a phrase here, where within one scene there's several jokes, either with dialogue, with movement, how like with a face or how they move their bodies. You'll
Just
get
something that
little,
happened.
yeah, an edit, each
Sound effect.
exactly, like each scene has a lot of jokes and different kinds of jokes in it, where that's all I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean the whole fucking, we did mention the whole where they go into town and they smoke a cigarette and they rob people and do heroin and all that stuff. But what we didn't mention is when they come back from that,
Oh
and
yeah,
they're
it's all
like,
been
"How was
just
your time in town?" And he goes, "It's always nice to get away from camp, even if it's just an hour." After they did this whole montage of all this shit about them buying coke, about them smoking cigarettes, about them like robbing an old lady, all this other stuff, and it was like, "Yeah, it's nice, even for an hour and everything like that." And it's just like they got that fucked up and fully recovered in an hour. And then after that, he like talks to the girl he's interested in or whatever, and he's like, "Hey guys, wait up!" And they're all in a line, just standing, pressing their heads against a barn. And then he runs over and puts his head against the barn because he's like, "Guys, like, don't leave me out. I want to just stand with my head against a barn."
Yeah, well, that's a great example of, you have this funny montage, and then it sort of really just ends where it could have just ended where they go back to camp, they don't acknowledge it, but the fact that they do acknowledge it, it sort of ends that sequence with one more joke where you're like, what the like this was an hour? What the fuck?
Yeah, yes.
And that's a great example. I think we should end it on that, of just how wonderful and delightful this movie is. So, thank you for watching, and make sure to hit the like button, share with your friends, and that kind of stuff, guys. It's really going to help spread the word of the show out. And just thanks again for watching, guys.
Give us suggestions too. I mean, I would always love new movies to watch. I have a coworker that's been telling me a bunch of movies I should watch. He always goes, "Write this down and watch this movie," when he's explaining to a customer about some movie he watched or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe we should touch on a couple of those to make him happy. But but I mean, yeah, just definitely give us suggestions. Let us know what kind of movies you're into, what you would want to hear opinions on, what you want to hear taken apart. Because, that's what we're here for, guys.
To talk about movies.
Yeah, we're here to really take it apart to say things maybe you wouldn't notice. In fact, if you have a comment about Wet Hot American Summer that we didn't touch on that you wanted us to talk about, like, let us know, because as I said, this is a movie that is repeatedly unpackable. You watch it and you find something new every time. So maybe you comment something we didn't notice when we watched it. the multiple times we've watched this movie.
Yeah.
And I'd always love to find something new about this movie because it's definitely one of my favorites. Just in terms of experiences, I watched it with some of my favorite people. Yeah, I mean, I meant Connor, but no, I'm kidding. But just had some really good times with stuff involved around this movie. So, just let us know what you guys think if you end up watching it.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys next week with a brand new episode.
Don't know what it's about, but it'll be about something fun, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Trying to salute you. You got to back. Oh, you're doing it better than me. I'm in the fucking military. I should know this. Ready?
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, guys. See you.